and welcome back for another story from our book Gods and Goddesses of Ancient Greece, to find out how they lived and what we can find out about our history topic. So in our last story we learned all about Hermes and how tricky he was and how he managed to keep himself alive even though the goddess Hera found out about him. And in this story we're learning about Phaeton and the Chariot of the Sun. I think there's a fabulous picture to start off to help us know who we're thinking about there. Look. Once the weather was always pleasant, no matter where, no matter when. Every day, as now, the sun god Helios mounted his fiery chariot and rode through the portals of dawn up into the sky. Nothing deflected him from his path across the blue cosmos, though each day his route changed a little according to the season. It was up there that he saw the nymph Clymene and fell in love with her, and they had 3 girls and a boy, Phaeton, and although the girls were content to help their father harness the horse to his sun chariot, Phaeton wanted more. "May I drive, father? May I, please?" "No," said Helios, "you haven't the strength, you haven't the art, the task is mine, too much depends upon it." But Phaeton kept on wheedling and pleading for a chance to drive the chariot, and his foolish mother joined in on his behalf. "Let him, Helios, let him drive it just once and then maybe he'll give us some peace." "No," said Helios. But Phaeton was spoilt and used to getting his own way, and at last he wore out the patience of Helios. "Drive it then, but for my sake and your own, take care. Drive no faster than I drive and keep to the appointed path." Angry at himself for giving in, Helios withdrew to a turret of dark cloud away from his pestering family. Laughing and teasing, Phaeton's sisters happily harnessed the horses. Nostrils flared, hooves stamped, and horses sent an unfamiliar weight on the running board, unfamiliar hands on the reins, and no sooner did Phaeton lay a hold on his father's golden whip, cracked it in his ears. From standing, the horses leapt to a gallop, eyes rolling, teeth clenching, the bit between their teeth. Dawn that day was a flash of orange on the horizon, and then it was noon. This was thrilling, exhilarating, and Phaeton gave a whoop of triumph, and he braced his knees against the chariot's sides. Perhaps a little slower, he thought, but when he did draw back on the reins, the stallions simply reared up and tossed their heads, wrenching his arms out of his sockets, burning his hands as the reins pulled through his fingers. The chariot wheels left in their well-trodden track. To the left and the right, the chariot slewed evaporating cloud banks, scorching flocks of birds. Now here's a picture of Phaeton here. He doesn't look quite so happy to be in charge. You see how scared he looks there? The world's soothsayers looked up and foretold miracles and catastrophes as the sun zigzagged across the sky. Phaeton tried to take control by flogging the horses with the golden whip. "Stop," I said, "slow down." But the stallions only panicked under the whip, ducked their heads and ploughed downwards towards the earth. Where the fiery blades of the chariot passed close to the earth, its forest caught fire and black smoke off waving fields of flames. Rivers turned to steam and lakes boiled, and even the shallow fringes of the sea dried to salt pans, white and peppered with dying fish. Phaeton pulled the reins till his fingers bled, and at last moment the horses lifted their heads before they would crash into the earth. But now they stampeded so high in the sky that the air was too thin to breathe. Far below, the earth was robbed of its warmth, crops died and the sea froze. Sweat streamed from the necks of Helios's horses, and they fell in large fluffy lakes and rivers slowly to the glaciers of ice. The blood vessels standing proud on their sweat dark necks, the horses plunged up and down, to and fro in their frenzy of panic, and beneath them the face of the earth was transformed forever, burnt or frozen or flooded. The animals found their habitats transformed. The bears went north, seeking coolness. The penguins went south. Monkeys fled, jabbering to the jungles, and people sought shade or warmth. Phaeton hauled on the reins till the reins frayed, though the chariot's copper prow and snapped. Helios emerged from his turret of cloud, his face white as the moon. "What have you done?" he howled. Zeus emerged from the cloudy citadel. "What have you done, Helios? Letting a child play with your chariot? My world is in ruins, and what ruin is still to come if he isn't stopped?" From his armoury of thunderbolt, Zeus took the largest. "No, my son!" screamed Clymene. "Not Phaeton!" cried his sisters. Zeus glared at Helios, and the sun god bowed his head. It is the only way, he agreed. The thunderbolt flew with perfect aim as Phaeton clung in terror to the wildly veering chariot. It struck him on the forehead and he fell without a cry, terribly slowly somersaulting and wheeling through the clouds past skeins of geese into the blue of the sea. And the broken veins were found still gripped in his hands when his sisters carried him and buried him. 3 tall, slender girls. Exclamations of grief, they stood by his grave, swaying and moaning. It was our fault, they wept. We helped to harness the horses. But it was no one's fault but Phaeton's. Too proud, too rash, too spoilt and too stupid, he brought ruin on the whole tracks of his planet and shame to his father. Seeing the 3 sisters, Zeus took pity on them and turned them into poplar trees, tall and slender and waving. But still they wept, tears of amber welling through the black and big golden drops which caught the sun. Hermes the storyteller shaded his eyes against the glare of the sun to see if his story lulled the monster to sleep. But Argos, who sees all, looked back at him with every one of its 100 eyes open. And there's a picture of the poplar trees and the sisters in their grief. Now that's an interesting story told in ancient Greek times about pride and being too foolish and too rash to get things done. And it sort of reminds me a little bit of some of the fables that we might have heard tell in our childhood. The Hare and the Tortoise is probably the one that I was thinking about the most. I really enjoyed that story, and it made me realise what total power Zeus had and how people believed that he controlled the whole world. The next story, if you join us, is called Zeus Shining, and it's about the birth of Dionysus. So join me if you can.